Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at the Fifth Frontier War Brushfires. It's an adventure recently published by Mongoose. Now, it is an adventure, and because of that, I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I'm only going to go through really the very beginning. But all that being said, I will try to be spoiler-free as possible, but I cannot promise that in seeing some of these pages you might not pick up a spoiler or two. So if you're concerned about that, please switch off now. I don't want to wreck this adventure for you. It's brand new. But having said all that, I'm really excited about the Fifth Frontier War adventure because it's support for the Fifth Frontier War. It was something I was complaining about for a while, and Mongoose has come through pretty well in the last couple of months with some stuff for the Fifth Frontier War. Now, this book is bigger than a normal adventure, and the PDF was $30 and the book is $50, which is the standard adventure price, or not adventure price, but standard sourcebook price for Mongoose. That being said, this is almost a little sourcebook in itself. So there's a lot of stuff in here, even if you don't want to play the adventure. So here we go. Brushfires. Brushfires defined as just a small outbreak of trouble during a larger conflict. Martin J. Doherty wrote this, and here we go. Introduction. The term brushfire war is applied to minor conflict in a distant place, typically in the context of persistent but intermittent troubles. So this is just an inconsequential situation going on, but one that's rather important to your travelers. And the author goes to a great deal of effort to give the players agency in this, and I'll get into that in just a second. We are looking for books. There are some books that have been shipped to from point A to point B. They've been intercepted. The players have been contracted to bring the books back. That is of some significance in the adventure. I know my players. If I say you're going to look for a bunch of books, they're not going to be that excited about it. They're not going to be that concerned about it. So for me, I could use this exact adventure, but I would have to change the books to something else, maybe a little more important, maybe a little more, I don't know, just impactful than what could arguably be just a moldy old set of books. But like I say, I know my own players. So here's the introduction. And I've skipped a little bit ahead as to how we're going to involve the travelers. And this is where the book really does its best to keep you from railroading anybody. You have a lot of choices as to what your travelers are doing. Is it just another mission to, discreet patron who wants something done? Are they serving a cause, be it the Imperium or something else? Maybe they're working with the Jodani. That's really up to you as in serving the cause. And then option 3 is self-motivation. They're doing what any good travelers try to do in the context of the game. They're trying to make money. So they can do all that, and they can have plenty of agency, and you as the GM have to shape your story. So if they're working as covert Jodani agents, you have to make sure that the stuff is in place for them to actually be able to perform their tasks. And I like that. I really enjoyed the idea of working with the different options for the players and giving the players plenty of choice as to why they're doing what they're doing. This gives you a good opportunity if you want to run a covert Jodani game where everybody on board is part of the consulate and they're just trying to make things happen during the overall war. This would be a good chance for you to do it. And then we are in the Junidi situation that is described here, and then the Aramox situation. So we are in the frontier, and we are a part of the Fifth Frontier War, but things have not gotten really bad here yet. The books were being moved for safety and have gone awry, and the players are trying to find out. Now, as they find out where the books are, as the players find out what's going on, of course, there are bigger picture things that they can get involved with, and it becomes pretty important to the story that the players stay with the path. You could get several gaming sessions out of this, just what's written in the book, let alone adding a side adventure here or there. And there we get a nice star map of the Aramis border region in the Spinward Marches. So we are right near Regina, Rylanor, Pretoria, and Ferger. There's lots of Argyr in this book, which is also fun. And we get a nice look at what things would be like if you were part of this expanding war. Maybe you don't want anything to do with the war. Well, you're in a hot spot, and you're going to have to make some decisions regarding to that. We get a nice look at system possession. Nice little chart given to us as to who owns what world at the time this adventure starts. This is as of 281-1107. And we get the Imperial Stronghold, Imperial Held, Disputed Regions, and then the Outworld Coalition Stronghold. I like that too because it gave me a quick thumbnail as to who was where and what I'd be doing with each of them. Then we get a nice look at powers in the region, and I like this a lot. Tukara and Akarut, Tukara Lines, Imperial Mega Corporation, dealing mainly in interstellar shipping and shipbuilding. And its subsidiary, Akarut, is a subsector-wide feeder line native to Aramis. So pretty cool that we've got a good look at a mega corporation in here, and the mega corporation features rather prominently in elements of the adventure. I like that. There's a lot of good background on the mega corporation in here. And then we get the major characters, the interest in the books. The Zhuang, they're an organization based in several worlds in the Vargir Extents. They are not pirates, they're mercenaries, and they hope to be mercenaries who eventually have a place to call their own. So they're pretty important to the story arc too, and they are a Vargir component. And then we get a look at some of the major characters. We get a look at some of the raiding forces being used. There's the major characters. And again, now we're getting into where you might get a couple of spoilers, so again, you've been warned. But there's some good stuff in here. I liked bringing out all these NPCs, bring them to life a little bit. You get a good opportunity to act on them as the GM before your players meet them. I like that a lot. And events in the border region. That's really where I'm going to stop because now we're getting into some of the meat of the adventure and I don't want to give that up. But you get a nice background on what's going on in the border region by date and who's doing what. The Jordani are doing this, the elements of the Outworld Coalition are doing this. And again, that's where this becomes almost a small source book instead of just an adventure. And I do like that. And I think that was the idea behind the slightly higher price point than just a regular adventure. You do get chunks of space in here. As you saw, you get a lot of good NPC write-ups, and you get a nice overall story for what's going on within the area that the players are going to be in. So I really like it. I enjoyed this quite a bit. Martin Doherty is always a very good writer, and I think this was very worth getting just for the information on the Fifth Frontier War, even if I'm never going to run the adventure. As I said, if I was running this adventure, I would have to make the objective something more than just a bunch of books, because I know my players. They'd be making jokes about trashing the books or whatever. Not that my players dislike books, they love books. It's just that I know my players in the context of a Traveller game, and I would have to give them a little bit more. But you can easily swap out something else. Maybe there's some confidential plans for a starship that the players are tasked with recovering. Anything like that will work for this game. But all in all, the book comes in at 146 pages, which, as I said, brings it beyond the range of just a simple adventure and into a source book type thing with an adventure. And I like that. I like that a lot. And if Mongoose is headed this way in the future, I think it's a good move. I think you can do a lot more with the information in here. Even if you're not going to run the adventure, you can really work with the info here, and it gives you a nice dialed-in look at one section of the Spinward Marches during the war. So I really appreciated that. So all in all, absolutely delighted to have this one in my library. I enjoyed the read. I think you will too. And if you're looking for more info on the Fifth Frontier War, you've got it right here in Brushfires. But that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave comments below, like and subscribe, tell your friends. Also take a look at the Patreon, see if there's anything you can do to help my channel out there. I'd appreciate it. But that's it for today on page 121. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.